We have Shrove Tuesday coming up, and that's really the getting ready.
Do you take that seriously and really kind of have fun and party on that Tuesday?
Well,
eat a lot of good food?
Yeah, I guess, right? So, I mean, I'm not really the party guy generally, so, but it is a sense of, well, Lent is coming, so we need a demarcation point.
Yeah.
And so either Mardi Gras or Carnival or Shrove Tuesday, all of those things have been at different parishes where I've been. And so we sort of celebrate that in that way, getting ready for Ash Wednesday.
Yeah.
Usually it's give something up, but I've become, I guess, a bigger fan of like doing something affirmative.
Yeah.
Right? In either the Corporal Works of Mercy space or just helping people, right, in some other way. I think that's good because, you know, part of it is you give something up and that's good, that's great, but you know, we did that when we were kids.
Yeah.
And now the capacity, it's sort of like too much, the idea that, well, to whom much is given, much is expected.
Yeah.
So that's where I take that. How about you?
Well, so it's funny you say that because that's what I use to justify doing too much for Lent. Because those much of we give, much of we ask. So I try to give something up, add something productive in my life, a different kind of prayer, a different kind of prayer routine, and then something charitable like every week that would be out of the ordinary that I don't do all the time. So this is the first I've thought of it for this year. But I think this year I'd like to have Jody and the kids and I all do something like maybe once a week for the 40 days. That is as a family serving our fellow people.
I think that is terrific, and one of the ways that sort of helped get me into that other mode, if you will, was the parish that we belonged to in Indianapolis, where Father Rick, he would always challenge the community, the parish community, each week with a new challenge, right? And I think that was a really good way to sort of set that tone and lead that. So I think that's a really great thing to do for Lent. And Lent is such a special time, right?
Yeah.
It's one of the things that I always remember. So my godmother was my Aunt Jean, right? So Aunt Jean, we always say now, well, there's Aunt Jean's rules, right?
Yeah.
Because she's like, well, you know, technically Sunday is outside of Lent, right? Because it's the Lord's celebration, it's the Eucharist, and so you're like, it's like your reprieve almost. But you're like, well, don't go nuts though, because it's still Lent. So that's always Aunt Jean's rule. Right?
Well, it's a great rule. It's mini Easter, right? Each Sunday's mini Easter. So I have a friend who's now Bishop Dan Felton. He's in Duluth, and he was my pastor in Manitowoc. And every year, a couple of us would give up beer during Lent, and then we would have on Sundays we'd have our youth group, and we'd go out afterwards with all the adult volunteers, and we go afterwards with the adults and get a beverage and some appetizers at a local restaurant. And he would lay into us on that Sunday for those of us who didn't have a beverage if we gave it up for Lent, because he said, "What you are saying that the sacrifice Jesus made for you on the cross is that your sacrifice is bigger than his.
Not even worth celebrating, right?"
So he would guilt us into having whatever it was we gave up in moderation that day. Which I thought was pretty great. That's a great rule.
So Lent is that special time. You know, the other thing I heard. One of these other shows, right? It was a Catholic show on one of the radio programs, and they were talking about dispensation, right? So that's like there's a mini dispensation sort of on Sundays, but especially around, it depends on where you are, right? Geographically and sort of culturally, but St. Patrick's Day usually comes during Lent, and so if it's on a Friday, you know, dispensation, so you can eat your corned beef and cabbage, and then, you know, St. Joseph's Day comes that time of year too, and so depending on your tradition, you want to get a dispensation for that too. I'm like, how many do you get?
I know, right? We're Catholics, we celebrate, right?
That's right.
It's so funny. So one of the things that I really have grown to appreciate as I got older is the liturgical life, really just the entire liturgical calendar, and how we really are supposed to kind of move through these seasons and these liturgical seasons. In Lent, I love a parish that does Lent in the way where they kind of unplug everything, and it's really like somber and kind of and the music isn't as uplifting. Right, and you cut out the Gloria and the Alleluia, and then that Easter vigil hits.
The Alleluia piece is the one that gets me. I'm like, by the end of Lent, I'm just like, hallelujah!
Yes, the first time that the organ plays or whatever instrument is during Easter is just epic, and it really does if you pay attention. I wish I would have known as a kid that if I paid attention, that Easter Hallelujah just means so much more when you don't say it for however many weeks.
Yeah, the liturgical seasons are just beautiful because it creates a rhythm in the year. I mean, and it gives you something to look forward to, right? So in sort of the secular view of holidays, it's like, by the time Halloween is here, Christmas is around the corner because they're going to put up the decorations.
Yeah.
But in the liturgical calendar, it is so much more beautiful because there's so much more meaning to it, and it has sort of this transcendent quality of permanence, right?
Yeah.
That it's not dependent upon what sale at some store is happening or not. It's this drawing together as a community to worship and to understand that there are significance behind that.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Do you have any traditions for Lent?
For Lent, well, the sort of the giving things up and doing things more. The other thing that I try to do a lot, which I don't know, is I wear a lot of purple during Lent. Yeah, I wear a lot of purple during Lent, and that's obviously intentional, but it's intended to sort of drive home the colors of the season, right? Yeah. And so people will ask me, right? The other thing I love is when Ash Wednesday, right? And everybody's running around with ashes on their foreheads.
Yeah.
And then people are like, well, you've got dirt on your, and then that gives you a chance to talk about it.
Yeah.
Right? And then the meaning, or dust, and the dust you will return, and that's not a sad thing, right? That's just part of the cycle of life and the love that Jesus has for us. And so those are the kinds of pieces to the season that I think are so valuable and so meaningful.
Yeah, one of the things I love about Ash Wednesday, especially now with this technological world where everything's live streamed and everyone's online, is the people who are Catholic are going to get their ashes on Ash Wednesday and they leave them on and they're streaming. Or I think of Tony Reali on ESPN, and for 15 years, every Ash Wednesday, he's leading around the horn and he's got his ashes on. And that too creates a conversation online. Everyone's tweeting, why does this guy have dirt on his head? And now all of a sudden it's this evangelization happening online just from him doing what he does on Ash Wednesday.
Yeah. Well, and what I love about Ash Wednesday is it is everybody come, right? So people who aren't even Catholic, they will come into our churches and get the ashes.
Yeah.
Right? It's a time where the world comes together, and they may not even fully appreciate what that is, but they just know they're drawn to it because there's something beautiful, a little bit weird about it, but beautiful at the same time. And then when they find out that those ashes, how they're created, right, from the palms from the prior year's Palm Sunday, it's like, wow, that means something, right? That's like, who knew you would even do that, right?
Yeah. And I didn't know that until I was 25.
Yeah.
I wish I would have known that my whole life.
Right? So it's like, there are just all these things. And that's why one of the things about being Catholic, and I'm a cradle Catholic, but even so, there are still things that you always learn. You're never done in your formation and your understanding of the beauty and what that means. People talk about, you have these rules where you have to give up something. It's like, no, it's not rules, right? It is, to borrow a slogan from one of those commercials, right? No rules, just right. And I'm like, well, no, it's not really rules. They're just right.
Yeah.
Right? And that's a much different approach. That it's out of love and commitment that one would want to do that, not because you have to.
Right. Yeah, and it is just a great reminder that when you think about that thing that you gave up, that you think of God instead.
Yeah.
You're supposed to rely on God and His love, and His love and grace is sufficient for us. So then that's what I love about Lent is that, and the give up part is that when I think of it, it's like no, the grace is sufficient. I'm going to try to focus on God for a few extra seconds a day.
A few extra seconds of the day.
But don't give up something that'll make you crabby. Don't give up caffeine.
No, you don't give up anything that make you bad, make you worse as yourself, because this is to help make you a better person. So Jonathan, do you think innovation is just for the cool people, the influencers, or is innovation something for everybody?
Yeah, I think innovation really is something for everyone. I was just talking to a friend who was talking about this famous band, this emo band that I love, and she was talking about how they were super nerdy, in high school, and now they're this super famous band, but they're innovative.
Right.
And there's no right, wrong way. It's for every single person. And that band is someone that, like, I love this band now.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, and people were laughing at them when they were doing concerts in high school, and now they're absolutely huge. And they were innovative. They did something new for that area where they lived in Florida. And so yeah, I think it's for everyone. And I think that God has given every person unique gifts and talents that are different than others, that He calls them to use in different ways to further the kingdom. I mean, I think that you could be a cloistered nun and be innovative in your prayer. And
Saint Therese of Lisieux, right?
Yes.
I mean, one of the biggest evangelists ever, never left the cloister.
And maybe now she knows, but like at the time, I don't know that she knew that her book the story of a soul was going to be this massive thing that impacted millions of people.
Right, still
and
does.
it was innovative, and he was innovative even after she died.
Absolutely. Well, the other thing I think about it is that when you think about how God gives us those gifts, those talents, that innovation, if you will, it reminds me of the parable of the talents, right?
Yeah.
So we're all called to do that, and some of us may not think of ourselves as particularly innovative, like making video games or software, whatever the thing is. But as we come, as St. Paul tells us so often, right, that we come in our own way.
Yeah.
Right? We have that ability to create, and really that's an act of co-creation with the Lord Himself.
Yeah.
I think that is just a beautiful understanding that we're all called to do that in our own way, in our own time.
Yeah, absolutely.